listen to my story. This may be our last chance.
Welcome, everybody, to the seventh episode of Kyodaichat, and boy, do we have a special one for you. Me and Jay today are going to talk about Final Fantasy X. Boy, does that sound old. Jay,
Yeah,
how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. We're going to talk about one of our favorite games, and I couldn't wait to get started. How about you?
Yeah, same. It was one of the first games I ever played on PlayStation, like PlayStation. So it was very
Excellent.
memorable. Yeah.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy X, boy, what a journey. Jason, why don't you tell us how you got started?
All right. I believe it's during 2003, 2004 ish. It was I my one of my earliest day when I moved to Vancouver. One of our friends brought his PlayStation to my place, and one of them is Final Fantasy X. Uh, it was very interesting game from the beginning. Uh, First of all, I have some experience about the sort of turn-based JRPG, even though it was like the turn-based concept wasn't new. Like I played some sort of a traditional Chinese turn-based RPG games much earlier. So the concept of the turn-based game wasn't. It was very natural to me. You know, you take turns and to move your characters, that so to speak. It was very like in the grand scale point of view. It was very important games in the RPG game industry, or the circle. It was first of all, it has the groundbreaking voice acting in that game, and it was at least first for me in the turn-based RPG games, traditional ones. And other than that, the graphic at the time was very fancy. Like the technical aspect of the game was very good, very top level production at the time. I mean, it was Square Enix, so uh, and
Yeah, I
the
believe that it was Square Enix's first time doing that level of like realism, facial capture, and voice acting. I mean, that marks a new tradition in Final
yeah.
Fantasy. So that definitely was a big impressive feature that they have.
Yes, yes. I believe we have similar stories about the Final Fantasy X, Sam.
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, I didn't start with 10. I actually started with 10-2. And we will certainly dive more into 10-2 as we go along on this episode. But 10-2 doesn't hold a candle against 10, obviously not. And
It has its own
I think
uniqueness for sure. Yeah, it has its own.
it definitely does. It definitely does. But I think in today's standards of gaming, 10-2 would be considered a DLC content as opposed to a full-blown standalone game. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Why don't we start with Final Fantasy X and the characters? Or yeah,
Yeah, it was like from the most memorable content from 10 was its very beautiful opening. Like it opened with a very slow song to Xanarkand, and then the intro shows you basically every characters, well, playable characters in your group, and it has the voice acting of like how, listen to my story, that kind of sort of thing. It really shows you the storytelling, and the character design was very like it hooked. hook you. Like you want to know what's going on. Like you never experienced this kind of opening before in other traditional RPG games, and it was already like introduced to you to the characters without telling you too much information at the time, and overall it was very 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 good decision to introduce you to the characters.
Yeah, and each character is very distinct. I personally feel that the main character, obviously, this is going to be Titus and Yuna's story, and they make it very clear within the first opening, uh, I guess, trailer or the
Soft
very beginning
opening
of the game.
intro, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very beginning of the game, they made it very clear. But each character is very memorable. You have Titus and Yuna as the main ones. You have Oren, who is Titus's, I guess, father figure and the guide for the party to get to their goals.
Yeah,
You have
loyal
Lulu,
guardian sort of thing. Yeah.
exactly. You have Lulu and Waka as
Lulu.
older siblings.
Lulu.
Kamari is another guardian of Yuna's, very protective. And then you have Riku, who originally wasn't really established until much later that Riku is Yuna's cousin. She is an Albed, which I guess is a different kind of civilization. I guess is the one that I would say from Yuna.
Or
So
like yeah, or like the basically the a lot. I saw a lot of memes about Albats about it's sort of like a sort of
um,
look down upon race in 10 series.
which I find it weird because they are again trying to move the Spira into the new culture.
Yeah.
So they really are like the innovators, I guess. They're kind of like the Steve Jobs of like back then, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, each character is very memorable. This is one of the first Final Fantasy, however, I've known that don't have any secret party members.
Oh
If
yeah.
you play older Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7, they have secret party members that you can recruit. But Final Fantasy 10 doesn't have that. There are secret summonings or aeons is what they're called in this one.
Or
But
weapons.
there is no secret party member that you can recruit. You kind of get everyone right. Pretty much by the middle of the game, you pretty much get everybody. And by then, you pretty much learn what everyone is capable of handling, which type of enemies. Waka is good with flying creatures. Titus is good at fast creatures. And Yuna and Lulu are the white mage and black mage. Auron is a powerhouse, which is kind of like the samurai job class. And Kamari is more of a jack of all trade, learn the enemy moves. So I guess blue mage in this situation. And then
Yeah.
Riku is kind of like the, I guess, alchemist or like
Yeah,
the
make
items master.
stuff or steal stuff, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you learn them relatively quickly by the middle of the game. So how do you feel about these characters in the setting of Spira?
Well, your characters, first of all, like you just mentioned, like each characters have its own sort of job system or their type, but it was sort of a, I wouldn't call it deviate, but it was sort of modernize the traditional role, like you mentioned, like a blue mage, black mage, or so to speak. But it wasn't called that. Like it was sort of a make it modernized. Like you wouldn't call Lulu a black mage, even though she's exactly the same thing in the classic game characters. So it was very like Square Enix tried to make it like cool or like modernized, which is very it looks cool and fashion and that kind of stuff. In terms of characters, like we first get introduced to the main character, Tidus, or in sort of in like what you can rename it to your liking. Very JRPG. We get to know Tidus, like he was a star player of the Blitzball sports, and he was sort of famous in Zanakan, his own hometown, and he was doing his normal day to being a celebrity and going to his sports events and to perform. And we got to see like a very cool CG cutscenes that playing the hardcore rock music while he plays Blitzball, while something like Sin we learn later that invade and destroy the city that he was in, and eventually brings him into the different universe or different world, so to speak. That is the whole opening is very traditional, and but it also gives you enough information and the curiosity for you to move forward to see what is going on in this world, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on the point of the beginning of the game, so that kind of leads us to the main focus of the game, which is the plot. This is basically Yuna's pilgrimage and her journey to become a great summoner. And each summoner in Spira basically makes a pilgrimage to attempt to stop sin and bring about the eternal calm. Now, the eternal calm is a period of time where sin is no longer in Spira wreaking havoc. And unfortunately, sin always comes back. And a new summoner would basically have to make a pilgrimage and bring about the eternal calm. With Yuna's journey and her guardians, if you will, she is trying to bring the ultimate eternal calm, if you will, to stop sin once and for all, stop sin from ever returning again. And throughout her journey, you encountered different summoners, different guardians. You visit different locations and see the impact that sin has. And there was actually a very, very memorable cutscene where Sin basically leveled as in a water
Like the island,
short.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just very devastating. And again, the graphics and cutscenes on these ones are just amazing. And it's Yuna's duty to basically send off the souls, and just incredible. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much the journey.
Yeah, and the you have to know that like at least at that point, Yuna's goal wasn't is to sort of eliminate sin for eternal. At the time, they all know that sin will come back after around roughly 10 years, but they're still willing to sacrifice themselves. Like even 10 years of the peaceful time was much better, like good enough for them to sort of sacrifice themselves because it's a peacetime. So it's even like their goal and it's much resolve, like they're willing to do that for the Spira.
Well, it's the
And
duty of the summoner, right? So
yes, even like 10 years, only 10 years peacetime is way better than sin destroying everything, that so to speak. And yeah, like you mentioned, the story was relatively straightforward. It doesn't have too much things that like side quests to like the story wise to for you to stick like it stick to the main story mostly. Unlike 7, like I understand a lot of 7's side content was side stories or other people's personal stories, which can be a little bit tired, that kind of stuff. While 10, I remember all the side stuff are basically one of the optional summoning, and all the others are like the weapons and stuff. So the story stands out like most of the time.
Yeah, it's a very linear sort of plot, but at the same time very complex as well. We certainly can mention the plot or discussing about it without talking about some of the antagonists. In this one, in Final Fantasy X, we have a guy who doesn't like to stop reappearing by the name of Seymour.
Yeah.
Seymour gets encountered at least 3 or 4 times. And every
4,
time,
I believe. Yes.
4?
Well,
Boy,
4
every
as
time,
as boss battles. You have to you got the chance to play alongside him once.
yes. And boy, every time he reappears, it's a head scratcher. It's definitely not pleasant because it gets tired very easily.
I mean,
But
yeah.
the fights are interesting, though. I will say that the fights are interesting, but it's just like I could do with him appearing at least once or twice less. I could.
I mean, first of all, I played 10 first before I know about 7 or 7 remake. But you can clearly see he's supposed to be Seymour is supposed to be a Sephiroth wannabe. You know, that kind of character or that kind of impact for the players. That's why he appears multiple times, each time stronger than the other, or hideous than the other. And I wouldn't have mind like your sort of nemesis or rival characters showed up multiple times. I mean, we all love like, even though it's different franchise, we all love Kuze appear, multiple times to fight you, right? That kind of stuff. So I can understand he, being the boss in front of your in front of you many times. But the character design or motive, so to speak, was not like it annoys you, and I understand it's supposed to annoy you, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I overall I thought he was just like a Sephiroth wannabe or Sephiroth type of characters in your way, that kind of stuff.
I gotta say, I don't fully agree with that in the sense that Sephiroth in the original Final Fantasy VII doesn't appear very often. So
Well, he
I
was in the
understand.
remakes, right? He was in the remakes or
Yes,
the
yes.
movie
In the
universe or
remake,
whatever. They
in the
overpraised
remakes,
him.
he does appear very often. And I think that's like a marketing kind of thing, or
Yes,
whatever
yeah.
this new plot thing that they're gonna spin on. Which, trust me, folks, we are definitely gonna talk about Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake. It will not be on this episode, or else this episode would be hours long. But in the original Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth actually doesn't appear until much, much later. Much later, after they left Midgar.
I think
So
he only got mentioned, right? But he never
he only
showed
got
up.
mentioned based on the things like the sword in President Shinra's back, the carcass of the Midgar Solemn when you leave Midgar. So there have been accounts and evidence that
I've
Sephiroth
thought
is
about a lot of
around,
things.
but you
Like
never actually
where I
see him
was,
or
what I
interact
got
with him.
myself into.
So
I started to feel
I guess from your
lightheaded.
perspective, because you're
And
coming in
then
as a Final Fantasy
sleepy.
VII remake, it may
I
seem
think
like
I had a dream.
Seymour is like
A dream
Sephiroth, but
of
in the
being alone.
original,
And with
Sephiroth doesn't
someone,
appear all that often.
anyone
But
beside
you
me.
know, vice
So
or
I didn't
versa,
have to
we
feel
can all
alone
agree.
anymore.
Some people enjoy the reoccurrence of, I guess, an enemy, and some don't. And in the example you gave with Kuze, I love it when Kuze appears because that's his character. Seymour's character, I understand why he reappears, but every time he reappears, except for the last one he actually kind of got where he wanted to be.
Yeah,
All
it
the
was.
other times he appears, I kind of felt like it was unnecessary because his goal was to be with sin, to be one with sin. And yet I was like, well, just go do that. Just stop reappearing on the snowy mountain. Just go be with sin.
I mean,
So,
again, he only want to be part of a sin or control sin at the end because sin absorbed him. And while the Titus and their main characters, they sort of destroy the, you know, Unalesca. So there's no way to erase sin or replace sin. In the beginning, I believe he wants to be. It has different motive, but overall, I believe I agree with you that uh, it was like a marketing stuff. Like they constantly shove this Sephora wannabe right in your face, that kind of stuff, you know. And then also the design was sort of similar, you know, long hair, uh, slim a little bit, and then you know very emo-ish, you know. I mean, we have a big audience that love that kind of characters, right? So it's very
I
emo,
suppose.
ooh, edgy, ooh, yeah, that kind of stuff.
So, well, on the topic of antagonists, we obviously can't forget Jet. Now, Jet is Tidus's father, also a very famous blitzball player that had arrived in Spira before Tidus did. And at least, I'm not sure if this is true for everyone, but it stood out really for me when Jet became one of the final bosses of the game. Um, it was very emotional scene when Tidus finally meets Jet in Sin, and the conversation is brief, and both knew what had to be done, and they didn't mince words. They just got right down to it. And if there is anything that stood out to me for Final Fantasy X, it was definitely this one, in my personal experience.
Yeah,
Because my parents actually made me play that segment of that scene at least 3 times before I was able to finish the game properly. And
why?
what I mean was back in the day, my PlayStation was hooked up into the electric
Camera
socket
TV. Ah,
next to the um, washing machine.
ah,
Don't ask me about the setup. That's just how it was for me. And my parents, I don't know why, would accidentally unplug my PlayStation while I was in the middle of the boss fight. I
I
had
see.
just defeated Jet, and they would unplug it. They did this twice.
Damn.
So imagine loving that emotional scene to like, okay, let's just get it over with because I've seen this like twice now. So that's why it's so memorable for me because I had to replay it several times.
Ah, I see. I see. And yeah, I felt the same. I also felt that the scene was much more like, to me it was like instead of Titus fighting sin, it was much more than Titus reconciled with his father, because his father Jack was gone from his life, well, from Titus' life 10 years ago, and Titus has some this sort of a resentment from with his father because he's never in his life with, you know, his mother
Yeah, daddy
and that kind of stuff.
issues, but with a
Yeah,
guy instead of a
very
girl. But
yeah,
anyways, moving on.
yeah, very dead issue stuff. But yeah, he it was throughout the journey, and like from the very beginning, and then from the moment that he learns from Aaron that Sin, this monster figure that destroyed this sort of new world, so to speak, was his father, and like basically it's his journey to reconcile with his father. So the emotional uh, release or catharsis was very strong during the Jack boss battle. So it was very emotional, satisfied when they finally not only the Jack boss battle, but the final boss battle overall, where he high five his father. So
Yes.
it's a very much Tita's story, other in rather than Yuna's journey. I believe 10 was. So yeah, the the character design and the lore behind each, like all the characters, protagonists, antagonists in 10 was very much like very well written, and it was very complete. And yeah, that's what I think about 10's character design. Um, like is is any other characters that stand out for you in 10?
Not necessarily. No, I can't say. 10 has a very core group. You have the main party, and then you have obviously the bosses and antagonists. But a lot of the other ones, or other characters, if you will, doesn't really stand out. You have the different civilization. You have the
I made
Albeds.
it out of the frying
You have
pan
the
and into the freezer.
Blue Lion Kamari tribe, if you will. You have the
Wait,
Ronso.
normal
Yeah, Ronso.
Ronso. Yeah, you have the Ronsos. You have the, I guess, normal,
Guado, the
people.
tree people.
No, no,
Or
no. The Guados are also there, but
yeah,
you just have the normal people of Spira. So
yeah,
you have these four main groups, and through different color variation and clothing or what have you, they don't really stand out to me. So
yeah,
the only thing that I think really stood out to me, aside from the main party, was the Aeons. Each Aeon has a backstory, and they were all essentially humans at one point, and then they gave up their life to become, a faith.
Need
And the
fire.
way you obtain, these summonings through Yuna's journey. And again, this is why I kind of say that it's also part of Yuna's journey as well, because there are some parts of the game where you do play as her, but the ordeal that she has to go through, the trials that she has to overcome to get these summonings in order to combat sin is, a character analysis of themselves, especially when during Tidus's portion of the game, the summoning Bahamut appear as a little child and kind of guides Tidus on his journey. So I would be hard pressed to say that the summoning is also a character of the story. And let's not forget about the ending, where most players, or pretty much all players, if you weren't spoiled by the internet at this point, that Tidus is the faith. He disappears after sin is vanquished, and that was a very heartbreaking scene and ending for Final Fantasy X, that Yuna and Tidus can't be together.
yeah. It was sort of a switcheroo. Uh, in the beginning, or like the moment you know about Yuna's journey, you thought, oh, Yuna is the one that's gonna go away, because it's the stand up sacrifice ritual that she and one of her guardians sacrificed themselves to, in order to create a new monster to fight sin, but then got replaced as sin. But at like near the end of the ending sequence, you learn that um Tidus is the one. Like, I believe he's not a faith. He was like a faith creation. He wasn't the one that dreams. He is a dream. So yeah, you learn that he is one is gonna be uh going away, erased, so to speak, and it was that kind of uh, I like call it bittersweet ending, that kind of stuff. You see lovebirds that have to get separated because of even though the world is safe, the final monster is gone. You still have like this kind of called regret or something that is it's very uh happy slash sad ending, and it's very emotional that people invested in the story and the characters will feel very strongly about the ending, which is why it was one of the best games. That it was a very memorable ending. It was a very memorable story, and uh, yeah, I believe that's the things that has set 10 apart from most of the other games, Final Fantasy games. I like to also chime in to say the aeons, the summonings. For me, because I never play like like 10 was my first Final Fantasy game, so uh, the name of Shiva or Ifrit or Bahamut, the name of of those beings wasn't that much of impact for me as to other as to people play Final Fantasy prior. So, and also when I think about the summonings, the Aeons, I wasn't like compared to their strength and their roles in the battles that they help you. I I'm more related to the process of getting them. And if you play Tam, you know that you have to go through a freaking puzzle thing to in order to get them, and each one is much difficult than the previous one. So it's like I believe Tommy was the guy who lent me the game and what got stuck into the Bahamut trial thing. I mean, if
Oh,
you
the maze,
yeah,
the
the
maze.
puzzle thing, like if you don't have the ability to solve puzzle, you can be stuck there for like half an hour or so. That kind of, so it's very, very, yeah, it was also very annoying at the time.
I
And
think they repeated this in Final Fantasy 12 as well when there's a big maze before you can get to the Ultima Esper in 12. But yes, I agree with you.
yeah, also I want to briefly mention the characters. I've, I, I like, for example, in the characters in your company, like I like, I like Kimari. I can relate to his character role. Like he was sort of a silence but loyal guardian to Yuna. In terms of the like when Auron is to Tidus, and he was one like he I believe his character got bullied because of his size in the Ronso tribe, and he has like a sort of a 1-on-2 battle at the Snow Mountain. Like that was his personal story, uh, his journey, that kind of stuff. So I can relate to that one. Uh, I can also relate to like I also like Lulu a lot for obvious reasons. The
It's the
the
belts. No.
the the whole like it's very gothic design of the characters. The big sis figure in the team, and he's
The
like
only goth in Final Fantasy X or Spira. No other goths other
yeah,
than Lulu.
yeah, and that fancy dress, that thick lipstick, and then the obviously eye-catching, melons. And I also like to use her a lot because the magic, the black magic, the element magic was very effective in a lot of situations. But yeah, Lulu is very like very Lulu.
Yes, you heard it first, folks. Very Lulu.
Yeah, I am the minority in modern, like, you don't know how popular, or the goth, the goth, uh, the type thing,
Yeah, but leave
yeah,
her out.
I even chose Lulu in one of the scenes, where she asked you not to
Yeah,
fall in
but
love with Yuna. I picked the option that, oh, you are more my type, that kind of thing. And I believe I got her in one of the scenes in the snow field, where you got to choose, or not choose, you based on your previous selections, you can see who's sharing the snowboard moto with you on one of the scenes. But yeah, Lulu's the most attractive being in the whole spirit for me. I'm
And
not
then
alone.
she marries
I'm not
Waka.
alone. Oh,
And then she
fuck Waka. Fuck that. Fuck that. Uh, and not to mention, Waka was sort of a racist in that game. She was very annoying about Albert. Fuck the Albert. That kind of thing. But yeah, fuck Waka. Fuck Blitzball. I hate fucking Waka, and I hate fucking Blitzball minigame. Yeah, but
Well, that kind of sums up, I guess, Final Fantasy X for us. But we're just gonna go on a short review, I guess, for 10 too, because oh boy, do I have a few things to say about 10 too. But before I get on my TED talk here, have you what did you think of 10 2?
10-2, I believe it was the first mainstream Final Fantasy sequel. Come after 10th success. They tried to because in 10th ending they try to. There's an Easter egg which sort of a cliffhanger that Tidus might be alive, might still exist. And I believe 10-2 is based all on that Eastern egg after credits. Um, I can understand why people, like, for me it was like I purchased 10-2 purely based on, try to complete Tidus' story, uh, but the actual game was quite a thing. Like, first of all, the opening was started by Yuna having like a modern pop concert. I believe it was not voice sung by Kodakumi, a very popular pop singer from Japan at the time. Uh, like, the tone and the atmosphere was obviously different from 10, which was like a very traditional spiritual environment. And then an opening of 10-2, you have a pop concert. So yeah, and then the intro introduced you to Yuna and two of her company or companions, Yuffie and Pain. Yuffie with,
Riku and Peng. Riku
yeah.
and Peng.
Oh, sorry. Riku, and both Yuna and Riku have like modernized, right? They have more modern fashion, instead of the more spiritual clothing in 10-2. And also
I wouldn't
Pain.
call I wouldn't call a bikini a more modern,
Well,
but
well,
proceed.
it definitely,
Proceed.
yeah, it definitely different than the whole Spira ritual shrine style
Well,
clothing
Riku
in
wasn't
10.
wearing that in 10 either. Like, Riku is a very interesting character in the sense that, like, she's already not in the civilization of the spiritual teaching and whatnot. She was an innovator and trying to use technology to advance Spira. But I think in 10 she was wearing some sort of jumpsuit. And then for whatever reason, call it sex appeal marketing, if you will,
Well, it definitely is, yeah.
wear a bikini for like the entire game, even though they were in the mountains. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, it's definitely marketing purpose. More revealing is better, right? So and Riku was even from 10. She was like the bubbly figure, Yuffie-ish character, so to speak. Stealing and stuff. So it was definitely marketing decision to market all the three characters in 10.2 like more, girly and pretty and different style. With also paying the new character also with the emo or goth or whatever that type of fashion. And yeah, so 10.2 was definitely marketing towards a different target audience other than 10. And I felt like I think a lot of people will felt not betrayed but sort of deceived by the decision that 10.2 went to that direction instead of 10.
Most definitely. I have said this to people, but I don't feel like 10-2 is a full-fledged game, and if you played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But 10-2 can be really simple in the sense that like you don't have to do everything the game tells you. The game obviously suggests you and wants you to visit every location and see the aftermath of what happened to the people around that area when Sin finally disappeared and all that. But the game is actually really short. So by visiting each location, you're really collecting completion points if you want the full 100 completion thing. But there's only like a few main standout moments in 10-2, and then next thing you know it, you're at the end. And what bugs me about 10-2 is the fact that they also chose to have a multiple ending, which I did not appreciate. If you speed through the game and just rush through everything, you're gonna get like the normal kind of ending. Yuna is happy she went on this adventure that is not summoner pilgrimage related. She got to experience the world. If you do a little bit more and fulfill 3 to 4 requirements of the game, you do get the happier ending where she reunites with Tidus. And of course, there's also that 100% completion ending where you get like a bonus cutscene with Tidus and whatnot. But I just felt like it was out of place. Narratively, I think depending on how you wanted the story to go, you should focus on making sure that the game have more objectives instead of just, bouncing around in different locations and not really have any real objectives. It's basically like a whole bunch of mini games and going to different areas, and the story and narrative just felt very clunky.
I believe so. I totally agree with you. I think in maybe in today's game popularity or mainstream, what do we call it? Like it's possible to have a game that has a big world and a lot of to explore and have a lot of side quests to fill the in-game time. But for me at the time, it was a lack of focus on the main story. Like the main story seems much weaker than 10, where 10 you can call 10 linear, but the story is very memorable and due to the writing, it was very standout. In 10 too, you I don't want to draw a comparison, but it's like a game that has a lot of side quests, mini game or whatever, and you the main story really didn't showed up, and it really didn't almost seems doesn't matter at this point. Uh, like the main story for 10.2 was for Yuno to have like she saw a vision or a sphere that uh, s- uh, a man figure similar to Tidus, and he was in trouble and that kind of and that kind of stuff that brought Yuna back to the journey to basically to chase after this figure. Maybe he's Tidus, that kind of stuff. But we learned,
Lazy writing.
Yes,
Tell the
and then
truth,
if
I
we
sure don't
learn
feel
that
like one.
oh, it was a character who
I mean,
died a
how
thousand
do I
years
know
ago,
how a father's supposed to act
Shuyan,
in front of his kid?
and
Why not
he
just do
and
what your
his
parents
lover,
did?
which also is
Don't
like
remember him. Sin saw
uh
that when I was still little.
like very similar to Yuna figure, a singer also,
You don't have any
uh
scares of them?
try to stop
Nope,
like a
not a single.
robotic boss, vegan again or
Vegna
something.
Gun.
It was
What's
very
wrong?
like the
Oh,
setup
nothing,
was
nothing.
very
Anyway, do me a favor and go say
I
hi
wouldn't
to
call
Lou.
it
She's still worried
lazy,
about
but
you.
it was very
Get going.
like you could have put more effort into writing this main story than spread out times about mini games. Like we don't care about Riku's brother. We don't care about
Welcome back.
like the side
Hi,
they sort of force
Hey,
you
it's
into the
getting
side
warm soon,
quests,
huh?
side characters which you don't
Not
really
yet.
care about.
Waka's getting a
But in
little
order
ahead of
to
himself.
complete the
Huh,
game or
Papa.
satisfy some
So,
conditions,
you
you
going
have
for a
to
little
do
walk?
this, and it was very
Can you?
lack
I could
focus
use
for
the
me.
exercise. Come on.
Exactly. And trust me, I think for me it's a toss up between Yu Yevon as the final boss and Vegna Gun, because both of them are not very not very fun to play as, I would say.
So, what's
So
so
I
important
I, I
about
think
getting
play Yu
home
Yevon is
without
very
telling
very
us?
fun.
no, it's not.
This
I mean,
Sphere.
at Yu Yevon is very fun.
Tell me
I
about it.
mean, you were talking about Yu Yevon in 10, right? The
Yes, Yu
final boss,
Yevon
right?
and Chen. I'm
Yeah, you
sorry, Yu Yevon is to drag out drag out the playtime.
uh, it, no, I think I think the final boss for me, the final boss in 10 was Jacked. He's the one that
Kiori said he
gonna
learned all
stop your
about
He-
journey
Nagase.
or stop your
yeah,
game.
he's the
If
memorable one.
yeah,
Yu
no,
Yevon was just annoying.
annoying
Does
maybe
look like
because
it,
everything
but
after Jack,
sometimes
like
seems a little
during
off.
the tens, the summoner fight, you're never gonna die. Never gonna have a game over. The same goes to Yu Yaman as well. The thing about Yu Yaman is that you have
Have
to
you found
figure out how to
anything?
defeat him. Like every time
Nothing.
you strike him, he will just
But
heal
there's still a lot of
himself.
places we haven't looked yet.
But also he
Must be
gives
fun,
all
being
the
free
whole
to go where
party
you
of you
please.
auto
It
life.
is fun.
So it
We
basically
never
is a
expected a
puzzle that
tiny day
how
like
you gonna
this.
uh,
I'm not there
lower
most
his health
mornings when it
without
rains.
giving him chance to heal.
Maybe.
So there are a lot of ways to do that. Well,
You have
if you
spread your
want to
wings.
brute force it, you just have to attack him
Well, good
multiple
luck.
times with Titus's overdrive and stuff.
But
But
Yuna,
you can
never
also
forget who you are.
using this hack of basically make him zombie.
You're
So
the high summoner
every
that
time he heal
defeated
himself, you
sin.
basically
There are
hurt
those who
himself.
would use that,
And
Yuna.
also you can cast
I'll be
reflect on
alright.
him
I won't let
instead of
myself
you.
be
So
used
every time he
anymore.
heals himself, he heals
Not by
you.
anyone.
So there are a lot of stuff. And I mean, I don't feel pressure fighting Yu Yevon compared to fighting Jack
Really?
because I got wiped by Jack a few times because his overdrive can wipe your company or the whole company. But like I talk about a lot of tense final battle stuff. I don't recall anything of fighting 10-2's Vecna Guns boss battle because
Since
it
you've come all
was
this
not
way, why
memorable
not
at
stay the
all.
night?
Like the whole design was very cheap and like this. It comes with like all of a sudden there's a weapon, robotic weapon that hide underneath and it has the power to destroy the whole Spira, but we never mentioned it. So in that point of view, it's very lazy writing as well as the design. It was very like they don't put effort into writing this final boss. They don't put effort writing 10-2 at all.
No, and I gotta say, I think they also stole a little bit of the inspiration from Seven, because in Seven, near the end of the game, you also have to go underground to go to fight Sephiroth, and in this instance, you have to go underground to go fight this big. I want to call it an insect machine-like creature called Venegun, but oh boy, that's just not even on the same level.
It was
But
also yeah, it also similar to fighting Six, like fighting Kafka, right? You start from the feet and then the knees, and then the legs, and then the torso, and then the head. It was
Yes.
I mean, I don't mind copying from previous successful characters, but it was the overall writing was not memorable at all.
Mm-hmm. Now I don't know about you, but I purchased the PS3 HD remake, in which they included the international versions of both games. So I guess the Japanese versions. But I actually played part of the bonus chapter that was included in 10.2, the final mission. And even that in itself, I don't think was enough to be like, oh, this contributed to the overall story where it is more accepted by the general audience. So I didn't finish it.
It only adds a few boss fight. That's it, right?
Well, I remember it's a clock tower kind of thing where you had to go up from the very bottom to the top, and then by the top you reach it. It was, again, it didn't add anything to the story or anything. It didn't have a huge revelation for like the story. So
Yeah.
I mean, depending on where you come from, I mean, I understand that there was rumors for a possible Final Fantasy X-3. I know that that's been circling on the internet for quite a bit, but I guess until it gets released, in my head, it doesn't really make sense to have a 10.3. You can certainly research it on your own and see what like the plot synopsis is, but I just think that you should end the story where you should end it. Like, I understand that for these companies making sequels and generates more revenue and more money, but there's only so much of a good thing
Yeah.
until you ruin it. But yeah.
Yeah, I believe with that thing, the added content was sort of similar to Blood Palace. The Blood Palace, where it's more combat oriented, more boss fight. In terms of story, they don't really provide much, and I do know some story about 10.3. I heard it from other um podcasters. It was absurd. First of all, it was only like a fanfic. It was like books, novels. It never became a game, or so to speak. And the story was very absurd. Like like he does die from the beginning in 10.3. Like he step on a mine or something like that. He explode. It's very, very, very like it's not canon. It's not canon. Also like a fanfic. And I also think that like we sort of berated 10.2 for like for a lot of things that the game did. I would like to talk about something positive from 10.2. First of all, the character's design was very bubbly and fashion oriented. It was cool character design, from at least from the main characters, and the battle systems stand out for me the most from 10.2, because you have like you can go through first of all, it's sort of it's not purely turn-based anymore. It has some sort of a real-time aspect to it, which I believe they expanded not in 12 but in 13. Like it marks that a shift of the Square Enix to shift from the classic turn-based gameplay towards the modern real-time action system. And not only that, the dressing sphere system in the battle was also it's very unique. Like you go through different sphere for the characters to basically change jobs during the fight, and they have different abilities in different jobs. And I believe once you make a circle or complete some condition, you have the unique job, much stronger job during the fight. So, and you can experience that a lot during the battle, which I think is it's a definitely a cool invention from 10.2.
Yeah, it certainly is a new mechanic aside from 10. I mean, 10 is so grounded in turn base and how you level up your characters in terms of the sphere grid. I mean, essentially, depending on how many hours you invested, every playable party member in 10 essentially can be the same kind of character depending on how well you level them up. But 10.2, I kind of found like it just felt it was more based on what kind of dress sphere works best for the three characters. And essentially that's what it is, because you only really have three characters that you can play with. So it's fundamental for them to try and get them to be like, well, you certainly have to have certain party members in order for these team to work, and they've included a lot of different like old job systems or new job systems that they have that was never really introduced before. And again, some of these job systems are available only in the international version, like the summer Bond Festival clothing kind of thing. And I don't know. While I think it's appealing, it didn't really speak much to me because I played 10.2 multiple times, both on the PS2 and the PS3, and I've only really found that certain dress sphere worked for my play style. But God bless for any other players that actually spend more hours than me in 10.2 that have found other dress sphere that works better. I mean, good on you. But the story wasn't strong enough for me to invest more hours in it. And I think that's where it kind of fell off for me.
Yeah, I believe 10.2 overall is a much more of a experiment project from Square Enix. They try to test out the real time system, real time / turn based combination system, which they later implemented in 13, and they also experienced this job switch system, which they introduced in 12. So it's very much of a experimental project, and I believe that's why they didn't put much effort into the core element of the story or the story setting and stuff. And it is, I would say, overall 10.2 is a very unique or cliche game. People who love it will definitely love it, but for people who are the classic Final Fantasy game players, I would say they they will much rather revisit 10 than 10.2 because of its poor story. At least for me,
Yep.
I would much rather replay 10 than 10.2 if you ask me to.
Exactly. Well, folks, that's pretty much our take on Final Fantasy X and 10.2. If you've never played both of these games, I highly recommend it. And if you have played them, thank you so much for taking some time and revisiting Final Fantasy X and 10.2 with us. Jason, you have any closing comments?
Yeah, actually, first of all, both 10 and 10.2 is very, it definitely has its charm, and it's an old game, so you can check them out and to form your own opinion. I mean, definitely there are people who prefer 10.2 than 10, and that's totally fine. Um, and I believe I also want to suggest that we maybe if you're listening to this or 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 from YouTube or elsewhere, maybe give us recommendations or suggestions that because which one you want to listen to us talk about. Um, 7 or other or 15 or 12 because I believe we all played these games, and we all have a lot of things to share about these games. So maybe have like a vote or something. You know, which one you want to listen to us talk about next.
Exactly. Please do give us a like and comment on which ones we should tackle next. As mentioned in the episode earlier, we are definitely going to touch on Final Fantasy 7 and 7 Remake. That is going to be an enormous piece of a video. So we definitely have plans in the works for that. But we also like to shed lights on some of the other Final Fantasies we've played. So thank you so much for listening to us, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.